Hi, I'm Natasha Josie, and this is the Being Body Podcast, brought to you by House Ltd. This podcast pulsates amongst creatives and thinkers who are seeking inspiration and purpose in life and are willing to engage and listen, who are perceptive, reflective, sensitive, and critical. We believe that sharing experiences has a unique way to make sense of human suffering, and it is through sharing that we heal, connect, and create. My guest today is a poet and writer from Pakistan, Hera Naguib. Hera earned her master's in literature in English from Beacon House National University, Pakistan, and an MFA in writing from Sarah Lawrence College, New York. Hera holds a fellowship and recognition from the Fulbright Scholarship Program, VIDA Women in Literary Arts, and the American Academy of Poets. She is a PhD candidate in English at Florida State University, where she studies poetry and teaches literature. Her work has been published in New England Review, The Common, World Literature Today, Dawn, The News on Sunday, amongst others. Hera and I talk about stillness in poetry, angst of the creative mind, becoming comfortable with not belonging, connecting to your landscape, and staying close to your art. So let's get to my wonderful chat with Hera. So welcome, first of all, and
Pleasure to be here.
I'd like to start with just sort of something that we were just talking about right now. So what is generally keeping you busy in life at the moment?
Well, as you know, these days it's the PhD, so I am in my fourth year. I have passed the coursework, thank God. That's not keeping me busy anymore, but mostly it's my own writing and teaching and reading. So trying to engage with materials that are close to my dissertation. And that's pretty much it, and I like to kind of fill my time in with things like my own making, I like to cook, I like to exercise, kind of like my own self-care routines, but that's pretty much it.
Okay. Um, so you shared with me, I know myself as well, that you have been raised here and there and you've traveled a lot, and I was reading your bio and actually got to know that you were raised in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and Toronto in Canada. You've lived in Pakistan, then you went to the US, did for your masters, then you came back to Pakistan, and then you returned to the US for now your PhD. So you've lived in so many places in the world. I've probably met so many different kinds of people, walked on the streets of different cities. um so where would you say or think, where is your home for you, or where do you find belonging?
That's a really interesting question, because that is something I think that is probably the theme, I guess, of what I'm writing about, and the main, I think, organizing question of my own work. I think that for most people who have lived and been brought up in countries which are not the countries of their home parents, culture kids that you would call them, I
Yeah.
think that they tend to find home more within communities than within the cultures in which they are particularly raised with. So
Hmm.
you have this kind of inherited memory of nation and language from your parents, and then you have, your own kind of integration with several cultures. Where I was living in Saudi Arabia was a highly multicultural, diverse kind of a place.
Mm.
uh, so um, I think that in I would for most of my life, belonging has been a question that I find more in people and the communities around me, rather than in in the countries that I've lived in and the country that I'm from.
Hmm.
And recently, I've been trying to kind of wrestle with the idea of being comfortable with the idea of not belonging at all.
Hmm.
For a long time, I think that I was kind of yearning to find a place that could, find a parallel to who I am in the landscape around me. But I'm recently just reconciling with it being something that is shifting, and something that has shifted in the past, and something that is um, going to shift in the future for me as well.
Hmm. Yeah, that's quite interesting because I've also had a similar sort of journey in life and still ongoing journey. We don't know where we will go. It's kind of like peripatetic life where you're just sort of going where your work leads you. But I think something that I've been also thinking about for myself, living outside, like living all over the world, and then now currently being in Munich and working from here. There's also like, especially for like young women in Pakistan who are now becoming professionals and have a different sensibility towards life. There's also a certain social expectation. There is definitely for young women, there are certain expectations of the way that you live your life and
Mhm.
how you are supposed to be. And now I feel like there's a younger generation of women that are not really falling into that sort of a sancha, that sort of a mold,
Mhm.
and are working around that, or not in terms of intentionally challenging anything, but rather have a different way of living life or think of
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
So do you think that that then informs any sense of like internal anxiety for you, or for living your life in a way that doesn't really, I mean, currently doing your PhD and you are living in US far away from home. So do you think that you experience any such anxieties of detachment or being away from your homeland in
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, to put it very literally, I feel like the more I'm kind of carving the space, I feel like the more I am disconnecting with my landscape, and hence even with a lot of, I mean, Pakistan is a very patriarchal place. A lot of people and women I've befriended are
Mhm.
also patriarchal in ways, and I feel like I have kind of. Um, I feel like I've lost a lot of the friendships, but I feel like I've
Mm.
also lost a lot of the opportunities for women who kind of want to break out of that mold and who are actually doing a lot of amazing work and breaking out of that mold to finding kind of independent space and living for them existence for themselves. For me, I think the way I kind of cope up with the anxiety, well, I work on a kind of, I would say, unhealthy pattern. Is that, you know, um, in a way, it can probably be healthy, but I just look at the day that is right before me and the kind of immediate thing that I have to do. Dealing with, for instance, questions of like marriage and where I'm going to be in the future can become a bit of a burden for me, especially like in an environment in which I think so much of the what happens in my day kind of depends on me, like how healthy my day flows depends on me.
Yeah.
So I try to just keep, I think one of the most important things is to keep perspective. So, whenever I feel like I'm kind of derailed by, any kind of anxiety, I will probably, center my own perspective
Mm-hmm.
um, in terms of things I want to do and things I want to achieve in the very immediate future.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds very ideal when I put it this way. Um, but I think that that's like one of my only coping mechanisms.
Yeah. Do you feel comfortable sharing, like, if you have a routine or something that you do that helps you? Because I think anxieties is generally something that our generation and the generation that is following is going through literally every day. Is there anything that you do specifically that helps you in coping up with those, in centering you?
I think that I'm very lucky that I have, first of all, support of my parents to do this PhD. I feel that if I move beyond it and seek a kind of life here, I will have their support as well. And so I feel like I'm in a privileged position. First of all, I
Mm-hmm.
want to make that clear, which I feel that many women in Pakistan may not have. And so, but when I do feel kind of burdened, um I wouldn't really have like, I guess, like if you're talking about like physical manifestations of anxiety, I turn to prayer, which is something I guess not popular, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it works for me a lot. um I will, like I mentioned earlier. So part of my routine, I am really trying to focus on a lot of self care practices. For me, that is things like cooking, taking a walk outside, things that help me kind of center my body and mind together. So creating that alignment, exercise. For a long time, I didn't treat exercise as self care, but I kind of tell myself that this is not for your body, but for your soul.
Mm.
Um, so I'll just clean clutter. I'll clean physical clutter. And I feel that that will make me feel kind of like rejuvenated in a way. um so
Yeah.
those are some things that I do.
Yeah. You mentioned right now that there's definitely patriarchy in Pakistan, and that is often a misconception that we associate only with men. But then you said something really interesting, that you said there patriarchy in women as well. Would you like to like expand on that? Because I think we generally don't talk about that as much.
Oh,
Um,
I just simply meant that I think that we all have patterns of it's a system, right? So we all have patterns of patriarchal, I guess, mechanisms and behaviors. Even with me, for a long time, I had misogynistic attitudes towards things that I had to kind of confront. So become radically honest towards. And I think that we all kind of are live and are born with in that culture, and a lot of women have to kind of participate in holding up
mm,
patriarchy. So it's a system, So and we, I wouldn't say that I'm any 100% beyond it either. I am complicit in it. I am programmed by it, and I think that we're all kind of people who have reached some kind of self awareness are kind of trying to create some kind of consciousness to live out of it or live against it or beyond it.
hmm. Yeah. Um, that's really honest and quite brave of you to say all of that. Um, I also know that you, being a poet and creative person, are definitely struggling, and there's a lot of angst that goes into, a lot of pain that goes into creating something out of literally thin air. And there's a huge part of culture that impacts our lives, and then
Mhm.
this painful process that we keep on going through again and again, of like creating something, and then we finish it, and then we go back to it, and then it's painful, and then we finish it. It's like sort of cyclical.
Mhm.
And with arts, especially in Pakistan, a lot of times we struggle in finding a place for ourselves, finding a footing for ourselves, with the lack of infrastructure or institutional support that we have. Amidst all of that, you are doing your PhD right now. You're continuing to stay true to who you are and your true self, I think, or as I see it. So why or how do you continue to do what you do?
Well, I simply continue to do because I love it. I don't think that if I were writing, I don't know, if I were not writing, I don't know what I would be doing. Maybe I would be a lawyer.
Oh
um
wow, really?
well, I think that I like a good argument, and I think that, but
Yeah,
that's
I
not
can see
only
that. I can see
that's
that.
not that's not only what goes into being a lawyer, but I think that I think that I it does boil down a lot to delivering a good argument. And there was also like once a point in which I was seriously looking into getting into law, but beyond that, I don't think I have the kind of grit it would take to be a lawyer in Pakistan. So that was down for that. But really, I think that why I keep on doing what I do, because I can't imagine myself doing anything else.
Hmm.
It seemed just to be like a natural calling. I've been doing it for years and years, and and how I keep on doing it is just I'm just trying to find opportunities to stay close to it. I feel like if I were in Pakistan, maybe I would kind of drop out of the 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 creative kind of pursuit,
Hmm.
and I feel like the PhD gives me a window, a big window of time to kind of do the things I love, which are to read, to teach, and to think and write while having, funding, having a job per se in a way,
Mm.
and to kind of plan for how I want to live the years ahead in terms of, my writerly life.
Mm. Is there anything that makes you worry in your line of work?
Um, yes, I am a warrior. So that is a question that is very pertinent. I think that, not being able to write is my biggest worry. And, despite having been into it for years, that's still a worry that that bothers me. The ability to not be able to express clearly is something that really disturbs me. And even in everyday life, when I can't get what I want to say across to people,
Hmm.
that's something that, bothers me at a deep level.
Hmm. So, like the creative community, I mean, in Pakistan as well as outside Pakistan, like the professional and the creative community and space that you work around and work with, you're managing relationships at workplace and meeting people, and as an artist as well, you end up meeting people as like organizers, intellectuals, but then also you're working with people who are more towards the technical side. I think in poetry, I'm sure you must also meet all kinds of professionals in sorts of degrees in terms of academia, in terms of writers. Is there any time that you felt, or say the last time that you felt powerless in your work, or in your art practice, or in your body?
Um, Personally speaking, I mean, if I felt powerless, I think that the conversation we just began with about me not being able to connect to my landscape and to my work right now, I think that that is a that is something that is bothering me right now, and that's the feeling of powerlessness. Not being able to get a grasp on your material and not being able to kind of break yourself out of that cloud. But
Hmm.
I'm not sure if you're asking in relation to these communities that are formed, or well, I haven't formed any communities as such, but these communities that we all take part in as writers, as artists.
Or as a person, as an
Yeah,
individual?
yeah. Well, I'm speaking from like a purely individual like perspective, from a purely personal place. Like for me, powerlessness in writing is when I can't communicate, but also I feel like when I'm in an environment that is completely not nurturing, I would
Hmm.
say rather toxic to the creative side. So a place of pure kind of um, a place that is purely banal, purely unimaginative, purely unconcerned with the kind of the inner richness of the soul.
Hmm.
I feel like when I am around people like those, when I'm in an environment that perpetuates that, I feel completely, um, you know, powerless in that kind of a situation, and I feel like that's when I kind of need to run away. And I feel
Yeah.
part of the PhD is was a kind of plan to run away from that as well.
Yeah. From these spaces you found yourself struggling with, and you
Yeah.
found that in Pakistan primarily.
Yeah, I did actually.
Yeah,
We
tell
may
me
not want to
more. I
get into
really,
that, but yes, I did.
yeah, I want to know, because as an artist, I'm very much familiar with the art community and how that functions, but I would love to know more about the community, like of poets and creative writers in Pakistan. How does that function? And like, how, what are the relationships? How would you characterize your relationship or relationships generally in this community in Pakistan?
Well, I never felt this kind of powerlessness within any artistic community in Pakistan per se. I was speaking in reference to just like the concerns, the daily concerns of life in Pakistan, and I know it sounds completely privileged of me to kind of talk about how talk about concerns of the imagination in a place like Pakistan, where that privilege is not available, and that's a realistic thing to say. But I feel like in within like the communities of poetry in the, the community of poetry is very small in Pakistan. Like talking about, if we're talking about community in terms of poetry in English, um, I am just in touch. I was in touch with and working with a very few people there who were trying to work with who are doing good stuff. Like I was working with Desi Writers Lounge, which was an online platform for the creative writing. For several years, I was working as a poetry editor there. I worked briefly with the Aleph Review when it was starting up. I think that we managed to make very productive kind of conversations in a productive space. Um, and I briefly shared work with some of the poets we were working, um, like just like over email and sharing our like writing, giving each other feedback. And I think that that was a very kind of constructive space for me. And I would say it's also part of um, the journey as to where I am now. It's helped me a lot. I think that my growth as a writer really did come from that platform, Desi Writers Lounge. Uh, that was a platform that allowed me to write, that allowed me to. They had a discussion board kind of thing for years where you could submit your writing, and people who were just as interested in writing, they would kind of give you feedback and stuff like that. So I think that place really gave me a lot of kind of safety and license to write. And so it's always been, I think, a productive and encouraging kind of space for me to practice and talk about poetry specifically in English in Pakistan, because I think that it's a place that a lot of the people that I've met who are interested in writing, they hunger for, and so they kind of want to bring the really good energy into it.
Hmm. Has your relationship to the community in Pakistan or your field changed over time?
I feel like I've only become more detached, and that's natural because I've have so much. I'm here in the United States, and I'm so involved in my own thing, and so that detachment is natural. But I try to keep up, with people. Just like seeing, what kind of work is coming out. But in terms of my own involvement, I haven't been doing anything for a long time. I do wish to do so, like give a workshop, do some community stuff. I think it would be great, and I want to kind of reconnect that way.
Yeah.
But right now, I feel like I have other priorities. Like I want my collection to be done first. I want
Yeah.
to finish this PhD first, so I don't want to get distracted from anything. I'm the kind of person who can only do one thing at a time.
Hmm.
So I do feel very detached from
Hmm.
that landscape.
Are there any conversations that you think that you are having outside your work self? Do you see there a sense of like work work or life, sort of a balance in your life? Do you think you have any conversations outside your work self?
Um, Outside my work, so of course I have a lot of conversations, and those are usually about like the most mundane things, like what did you cook today, what clothes are you wearing, things like that.
Yeah.
And but they sustain me, keeping in touch with my family every day, talking to my friends, um, and watching. I watch a lot of Pakistani dramas.
Oh, really?
Yes, I it's just like that's the only thing that gives me comfort at the end of the day. I come home and watch completely something mindless. Oh yes, that's another self-care technique, by the way.
Hmm.
After every teaching day, I will just come home, plop on the sofa, and I will turn on a Pakistani drama. As mindless as it is, I just love being in the language, being in that landscape, being in those characters. At the end of the day, I guess it's just the story. Just being within a story is just something that kind of rescues me from my day and makes me feel alive.
Yeah, makes you feel like home.
Yes.
Hmm. Do you feel fulfilled? When do you feel fulfilled, rather?
Oh, okay. When do I feel fulfilled? Yeah. Do I feel fulfilled? No, I don't. When do I feel fulfilled? Is when I've written what I wanted to write. That's like I think the most fulfilling feeling for me, when I fully expressed and captured everything that I wanted to in a poem.
Hmm.
There's no other feeling compared to that, and I think that's why you go back to making art, because you've done that once, you want to do it again and again.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that feeling is like?
I think, as you would say, it's fulfillment, it's clarity, there's a sense of clarity, because I think that there's a clarity and a power to naming. So once you're able to name something, that you're trying to grasp and that you felt. There is a kind of agency in that, and and I feel that it's just very enriching and
Mm-hmm.
encouraging, and I feel like it's a very creative kind of force, and it's a drive in a way. It kind of makes you want to go forward to doing more of it and more of it.
Hmm. Is there anything that you'd like to tell to your younger self?
I would say be yourself and don't worry too much. um Make mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
which I think you will anyway. I've made so many mistakes, but don't be ashamed of it. I've made so many mistakes, but I've carried too much shame, and there's no point in that. So just be yourself and be braver. I think that something that I'm learning as I am, on the brink of 35, is that bravery and perspective are just something to kind of keep in front of your eyes all the time. There's no point in being afraid, because what's going to happen is going to happen. Whether if it's the little failure of a day, the loss of a relative. um, I think that writers are perhaps one of the most anxious set of people I know. They're hypochondriacs, they're warriors, and so that's, I think, part of my natural kind of personality and instinct of being a writer, is that I worry too much. And so I would tell myself to center some kind of bravery and perspective, and to be
Hmm.
yourself.
Beautiful. And if the world was ending tomorrow, and you could say something to me without any future impact of that saying, what would it be?
To you,
Yes.
without, I would say, oh, hold on, I'm trying to form this.
Take
It's
your
not that
time.
I don't know what to say. I do know what to say. um, I would say I love the way that I've seen you grow over the years. It's something so heartwarming for me, personally and professionally, and something so inspiring. And I feel like I'm so glad to kind of have that kind of person in my life, that I feel for me, it's not the people who have reached somewhere that I can look up to, that are my role models in a way. I feel it's the people who are continuously working to grow themselves on a personal and a professional level. For me, that's very inspiring, and I feel I'm really glad to have you by my side in this journey. At a point, I feel as you grow older, you kind of lose companionships, but I truly feel that I found a companion in you. Yes, I nailed it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. I was going to say the same thing, that it's an honor to be your friend and it's a
Yes.
privilege to know you. And I just wanted to talk to you about these things that I've been thinking about, and I want to know your perspective on. I wanted to know your perspective on, and kind of get everything on record, so that like 10 years down the line, we can always listen back and hear what we thought about life. And I think you have specially spent and had quite different kinds of experiences, and sort of persevered and moved ahead, and I see that. And thank you so much for just opening up and trusting me with your thoughts, and telling me about all of these beautiful experiences, and your journey as a creative writer, and your process. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I would love to hear more of these, being body podcasts.
Thank you so much, Hera. And thank you for taking out the time in your busy, busy day.
Thank you for tuning in. This has been a presentation by House Ltd. I hope you will listen, follow, rate, and review all our episodes, which are available free on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, Anchor, Pocket Casts, and the official House Ltd YouTube channel.